At the 7 conference championships this weekend, there were plenty of upsets. Penn State earned an unexpected victory in the Big Ten. David Carr versus Keegan O'Toole round 2 went down, and the NC State versus Virginia Tech rivalry was as heated as ever. I'm going to reveal all the major upsets you may have missed over the weekend in this week's wrestling headlines presented by Defense Soap. Now let's stop stalling and get to our first wrestling headline of the day. Starting with the Big Ten, the Penn State Nittany Lions won their first Big Ten championship since 2019. Is that correct? Yeah, it actually is. You got to remember Iowa and Michigan won in the meantime, and they did so in epic fashion with 4 Big Ten champions. That's Roman Bravo Young at 133, Levi Haynes at 157, Carter Sirachi and Aaron Brooks at 174 and 184. By the way, thanks to Bashmania for putting together these awesome graphics throughout the weekend. So let's talk upsets. And there was a major one that happened at 157 pounds. That was with the true freshman Levi Haynes taking out Peyton Robb in the finals, winning his first Big Ten title, and I'm sure more are to come down the way. Now, this isn't only big because he's a true freshman. The other reason that this is so big is because it's over Nebraska's Peyton Robb. Peyton Robb is the #1 ranked wrestler, or he was, in the country. He was the favorite to win a national title, setting up Levi Haynes for a lot of success on the big stage. Now, will Haynes take the #1 seed? It's possible because now he has that win over Peyton Robb. I think it more possible, though, that Austin O'Connor ends up getting that #1 spot and Levi Haynes falls in behind him. Now, the Cornhuskers weren't down and out for the count because they returned actually the favor to Penn State by defeating Max Dean at 197 pounds. This is Silas Allred, you see, earning a last-minute takedown. Now, he was already up in the match, but the last-minute takedown sealed the deal, defeating Max Dean 6-3. You see, him and his coaches are so excited because Nebraska had a phenomenal tournament. I mean, in this match in particular, he was dominant against Max Dean. He earned 3 different takedowns on him, which was quite impressive for Silas Allred. The other thing that we have to note here is that Nebraska was actually 5-5, undefeated in the semifinals bouts. They absolutely dominated. But what about the other upsets that happened that maybe weren't in the finals? Well, the first one of these is Graham Brooks in the second round, taking out Austin Gomez. That's an Indiana wrestler taking out one of the top wrestlers in the country at 149. You could kind of see that Austin Gomez was hurt a bit, and so you were expecting maybe he was going to start bouncing back and how he was going to do. Well, he wasn't able to bounce back because in the consolations, whether he was hurt or not, he still fought hard, but he ended up getting disqualified based on this illegal move. Watch this sequence. This is posted by Drew Blogs on Twitter. Oh, man. He took him out. And let me replay that one more time. He doubles in, lifts him up, and drops him right on his head. Now, here's the thing. Was this illegal? Yes. He picked him up, dropped him right on his head. It was an illegal slam. It was classified the right way. However, I don't think it was intentional. I don't think Austin Gomez was trying to be dirty or anything. It just, the momentum was coming forward. That's just the type of wrestler he is, wrestling aggressively. He's so likely going to get the he's going to get the qualifying bid for the 149-pound weight class, kind of as the wild card. There's no doubt in my mind. And he's going to jump back and recover. But Big Tens, let me know what you thought in the comments. Like, what did you think about that? It was such an awesome weekend. So if you watched Big Tens this weekend, you heard that one of their big sponsors was Defense Soap. Well, I am proud to call them a sponsor of this channel too. And there are 3 reasons why I trust and use all their products. The first is they're made for wrestlers. Their soap and body wipe products can help protect you from ringworm, dry skin, and other mat-borne skin diseases. Second, they make you actually feel cleaner. While other soap products are full of chemicals, dyes, and perfumes, Defense Soap is all natural. I feel better after every shower that I use their products. The other reason I trust Defense Soap is because they're made right here in the USA. And trust me, after you try their products, you'll be feeling the same way that I do. To try Defense Soap for yourself, go to defensesoap.com. It's linked down in the description below. Thanks to Defense Soap for sponsoring this video. And that moves us to the Big 12 with Mizzou dominating the conference yet again. You see here they took out Oklahoma State and Iowa State, who took second and third respectively. It was a fun conference all around, but the biggest match that happened easily was at 165 pounds with David Carr versus Keegan O'Toole round 2. And if you didn't see what happened, then let me just show you. It was insane. David Carr ended up winning this bout in sudden victory, not by a decision, not by like a close margin. He ended up winning by a pin. Now, the score was 3-3 going into the sudden victory period, so yeah, it was a close match, but wow, David Carr sticking O'Toole. This was O'Toole's only third loss in his career, another one of those being to David Carr. This was the only time in his career that he got pinned. David Carr just showed up big time and said, yeah, watch out, 165. I'm bumping up from 57 to 65 and taking this title. He is the heavy favorite now, especially with some of the other guys who lost this weekend at 165. But that wasn't an upset. So one upset that did happen, though, was Pinheiro Johnson, who took out Brock Mahler of Mizzou in the 149 pounds weight class. Mahler, the number 1 seed. Pinheiro, the number 3 seed. Mahler had previously lost to him just a few weeks ago. Mahler actually pinned Pinheiro Johnson in the dual meet, and here he came back and earned a victory. And it was a come from behind victory, too. It was something that it looked like he was losing, ended up coming back and winning 10-4. Now, sticking with the theme of Iowa State wrestlers getting upsets, unfortunately, on the other end of the spectrum, it was Younger Bastida, who made the semifinals, then lost to Rocky Elam. Now, that wasn't an upset in and of itself, but he did end up losing in the consies to Owen Pence of North Dakota State and Bachman of Utah Valley, doing the semi-slide to finish in 6th place. The other thing I want to mention is actually Rocky Elam earning a victory over Tanner Sloan, the number 1 seeded wrestler in the Big 12, to clinch the Big 12 title for Mizzou. What a weekend it was. And by the way, if you think that David Carr is going to end up winning the 165-pound title, why don't you hit the subscribe button right now? So before we get to the third major conference in the ACC, we got to hit some quick headlines with what happened in every other conference. Well, starting with the EIWA, Cornell took out Lehigh and Penn to win the conference with 6 individual champions. Very impressive, but more impressively are 2 of these guys who ended up winning for Cornell. One at 165 was Julian Ramirez, who took out Princeton's Quincy Monday, easily a top-ranked guy at 165, and this wasn't the only upset at 165, but I'll get to that in just a second because I gotta stick with Cornell, with Jacob Cardenas at 197 taking out a top-ranked Michael Beard of Lehigh. Very impressive. Of course, Vito Rujao and Yanni Giacomohalis were some of the other champs for Cornell. Yanni, just what an impressive career all around. But that moves us to the MAC with Lockhaven winning with 2 different champions. And in the Pac-12, Oregon State won over Stanford, Cal Poly, and Arizona State. Yes, they took out Arizona State. Arizona State has been the top team in the Pac-12 for many, many years, but Oregon State earned the most chances here with 5, and the most impressive victory, it was an upset, and technically this time it was not an upset because he won a couple weeks previously, but Matt Ogun took out Shane Griffith yet again, this time in the tiebreaker, to win a Pac-12 title, setting him up for a strong seed at the NCAA championships. And in the SoCon, App State Mountaineers swept the conference, not only in the regular season and dual meet, but also in the conference championship. Now, interestingly enough, Campbell was the team who actually earned the most champs with 4, while App State had only 3. Campbell also had the most automatic qualifiers. And that leaves the ACC, and I'll tell you what, this rivalry was as heated as ever between NC State and Virginia Tech, and Pitt was kind of sitting third, like on the outside. But between these 2 teams, wow, there were some impressive victories from start to finish at this conference. Of course, NC State ended up winning the ACC title for the 5th straight year in a row, taking out Virginia Tech 101.5 to 78. The biggest upset that I saw, and probably the biggest storyline of this entire conference, was Kai Arini taking out Sam Latona in the semifinals. First of all, the number 1 Sam Latona beating him in the last seconds of this match. And yeah, there was a bit of controversy here about whether he had takedown or not. I personally thought the time ran out and it was close. I don't know if it was enough to call 2 points, but if you did think that, please let me know. But in the finals, Kyrie ended up winning again in the last seconds of the bout whenever he took Mickey Philippi of Pitt to sudden victory, number 2 seeded guy, and stuck him right here on the edge of the mat. Wild. What a way to end this weight at 133 for Kyrie. The other match that I got to mention is Mekhi Lewis taking out Alex Fajan of NC State. Now, granted, this wasn't an upset, but the reason I want to talk about it is because Fajan had an impressive tournament and is kind of not being talked enough about as one of NC State's wrestlers. You got Trent Hiley, you got Kyrie, you got some of their other crop, but Alex Fajan really took Mekhi Lewis to the limit here in the last seconds of the match. And you see, as I fast forward a bit, things got a bit chippy and heated between these two. But are we very surprised at this point between NC State and Virginia Tech? It's just fun wrestling that I like to see. I like to see things handled on the mat and necessarily not after the match, but yeah, things got chippy between those two. As far as what else happened, Bryce Andonian and Austin O'Connor was a high-flying, exciting match. And Andonian, you're going to see him toss Austin O'Connor in the early bout, but O'Connor was able to earn the victory in the end here. So not an upset, but just something that I want to mention, staying undefeated. Now, if you want to see who the top wrestlers are to watch at Nationals this year, because there are only a couple of 4-time national champions ever in history. And to find out who those guys are, you watch this video right here. Those are your wrestling headlines.